So for Brodel, population as the key indicator of mature life. So he is arguing the weight or the importance of numbers, and the population is the main indicator. And he adds some more references, the reference, which is called a scale of reference. Um, and before talking about the other sections, um, let me say some crucial points or logical premise of Broder's argumentation. Um, Even imperfect numerical data reflect real changes. The figures proposed by a socioeconomic scholars are not exact numbers. And they are merely estimates extended and projected from limited data in specific times and places. I'm repeating this one, and this is crucial for uh, not um, misunderstand misunderstand the broadest project. So the data, the estimates still hold value. They are better than having no data at all, and they allow for a certain level of generalization. Uh, um, So for the other indicators, Brodel suggests some um, like towns and armies and navies. Um, the figures such as the size of cities or armies and the naval fleets or ships can also serve as useful scale of comparison. Um, Actually, these indicators are based on the population, the number of population. So that's the not different from the population. Of course, the absolute numbers are vastly different. A broadest world had a population of about 4 million. Yeah, as I told you, whereas today is 8 billion. That is 20 times larger than in the early 14th century and 5 times larger than in the early 19th century. The age pyramids are also completely different, so a direct one-to-one comparison is impossible. However, even broader, even a broad comparison of total figures can already gives us a new perspective. For example, Cologne in a German city, Cologne in the 15th century had only about 20,000 inhabitants, and the ratio of urban to rural population was roughly 1 to 10. So a city of 20,000 then would correspond to perhaps 100,000 to 200,000 today. Compared to the um, Istanbul, a Turkish city, a mega city in the 16th century. By contrast to Istanbul is estimated to have had between 400,000 and 700,000 residents, a densely populated urban center by the standard. So simply figuring out the numbers and comparing it with should be like we need to pay attention to and we should like more um us like yeah I'm saying that just comparing the size and numbers we should not avoid the oversimplification. It's comparing army sizes or naval fleets might also provide insights, but we still skip that for now. Since I I want to spend more time focusing on what I think that is important, more important. Yeah, that is population density. And yeah, this world map is made by Golden Hughes. This is not by the Ferdinand Brodel, but Golden Hughes, and he tried to figure out the using the figure of popular density. He is just showing the levels of the civilization. So Brodel treats population density not as a mere demographic statistic, but as a measure of civilization itself. The more people who can sustainably live on a given area of land, the higher the level of material organization, production, and exchange. So the density of population, it rise in substance, is the best measure of the degree of civilization. So as you see, the the black dark area is like this, the Europe and the North Africa and the Middle East and India and like East Asia, like China, including China, Korea, and Japan. Yeah, this is densely populated civilizations, especially using clothes. So, determining the degree of the civilization, the degree of development is the indicator is the using pros and like more technical ones, like using animals and heaviest and unparalleled plow. That kind of machine is like the indicator of the levels. Just even today, like using the autos, automatic machines like cars and the airplanes or things like that is the like standard of the civilization. So don't get me wrong, or uh, uh don't misunderstand Broder's opinion about the civilization and the barbarian. It's not a uh, he is not using that words those words like um the absolute meaning, but yeah, is more like is yeah, just the people who invade certain people can be called barbarians in a comparable ways. So uh, don't emphasize the exact meaning of the word barbarian and civilization. It's just the word for using technology or the machines or like the pros. So the density of people is the indicator of the certain the levels of the civilization, the degree of civilization. And the scholars like Gordon Hughes put the numbers of the degree of this like the density of population. So um just a minute, please. Yeah. So comparative densities around the 1600 17th century using approximate figures, Broder compares population densities in Europe and China at circa 1600 He concludes that Europe and China were the two mostly dense settled zones of the world, forming the twin centers of the pre-industrial civilization. And there's the word like threshold of civilization. And Broder suggests that an average density of about 30 people per square kilometer marks a threshold. That's the beginning point of the starting point for the civilization. So above it, a stable agriculture, local markets, towns, and technological progress can emerge and sustain themselves. And below it, economic life remains self-sufficient, dispersed, and slow to evolve. In other words, low-density regions remain trapped within the limits of bare subsistence. And another point is that once population surpass the threshold, the like is suggesting the threshold of civilization is 30 people per square kilometers. So once population surpass the threshold, division of labor, urbanization, and complex exchange networks develop. Border calls such highly density regions as the civilized zones. And by contrast, areas of sparse settlement remain empty spaces where communication, trade, and innovation spread only with difficulty. So to summarize, for summary, for broader population density is a structural variable that determines the tempo and scale of a civilization. It governs productivity, urban growth, technology, and even social complexity. The threshold of roughly 30 persons per square kilometer represents a mature limit. Is the for the keyword for broader the limit of the possible, right? So a mature limit, uh, this threshold of the number 30 represents a mature limit at which civilization becomes self-sustaining. Thus, population distribution and density are not just numbers, they define the scale and rhythm of the pattern of human civilization itself. And the next point is about the 18th century. Yeah, just um given the importance of the number of population and the population density, yeah, and then Brodel um examines the 18th century and the like crucial like number in birth and death. So the number of the rates of birth rate and death rate is crucial for understanding the 18th century itself. 18th century is important for this discussion because just after 18th century, in the 19th century, it is a whole new era for because it represents of the industrialized world. The from 15th to 18th century, that's the like modern era. It's the beginning and the background for like the like industrialized world. But is questioning the crucial um elements or the factors of our material life. Uh, has it changed it? Does it change it? Yeah, that's the main question by Brodel, and in the whole series of book, and for this like our whole discussion for this semester is holds the same question about what about the before and after 18th century. Let's check the of these two graphs. Actually, Broder suggests three graphs, three regions, three cities, and compares the birth rate and death rate. Like we we can see the dotted lines showing the numbers of baptisms. Do you know what does it mean? Yeah, baptism is like the Christian ceremony for for especially for the infants. So we call it infant baptism. After giving birth a child, um, the parents brings the baby into the church, and the pastor or the priest in the church baptized with water as the ceremony to be saved by God, or as a chosen for uh, the like for people are too saved. Anyway, the infant baptism, the number of baptism meaning the birth rate, right? And the this like continuous line is like barriers and death rate. So from time to time, yeah, like the black um black colored like like this shows the amount of the death exceeds the birth rate, right? So the more people were dead, and larger than the number of the infants or the birth rate. So, but the crucial point is is this: just after the death of large numbers and exceedingly exceeds the number of the baptism or the birth, and just after that, these two lines fluctuates but are moving together line by line or in tandem, right? I'm just so birth and death rates moved in tandem, creating a delicate equilibrium. In Latin. Equilibrium is equivalence or equivalent number that was constantly offsets and reset in the short term. So yeah, in a short term, um, sometimes birth rate is higher than the death rate, and in other times, yeah, vice versa. Death rates like exceeds the birth rate, but in the long term, yeah, we can say that these lines are moves in tandem and like make equivalent of the state of the whole the balance, right? So, recurring famines as ordinary reality of, yeah, I'm saying the famine was not an exception in that era, right? For us, COVID-19 is very yeah, not usual one, very extraordinary phenomenon, right? But for the medieval people or the modern people, a pandemic or the famine is not special one. It was just part of their everyday life, and rural areas suffered more severely than cities, and the crisis was more intense in Eastern Europe and Asia, especially China and India, than in Western Europe. And the situation worsened during the Little Ice Age of the 17th century, yeah, as I showed you. I guess remember the graph, right? And food shortage inevitably led to outbreaks of disease. Oh, so oops. I didn't check the times, so yeah, I don't remember how many minutes have passed. I'll just okay. So just think of the famines and like epidemics as for Brodel is a French scholar, and he uses the word ancient regime in French is in English is ancient regime. So for biological meaning, yeah, Brodel uses words like this, and for the 18th century, we are dealing with actually Brodel talks about the 18th century, and he's saying that it is this century, 18th century is the marks of the end of biological ancientism. Ancientism is like political meaning and for the students of the Western history department, we are familiar with this word and is meaning the old system, especially for the French political history. Ancient regime is like showing the old and um, totalitarian or like authoritarianism and is like existing a king and the aristocrats and oppress the common people or things like that just before the French Revolution. So after French Revolution, it's more close to like modern democratic liberal society, right? And in a biological meaning, ancient regime is like this an epidemic and famine were common for people to people the people who lived in 18th century. But after that, the biological ancientalism has ended. It is over. It was over. So the so-called dual instability, like chronic food shortage and recurrent epidemics, yeah, in a short term, capacity for recovery. In the long run, life prevailed. As the like this shows the birth rate and death rate. And with the epidemic and the famines, yeah, they just managed to live, right? And just so they just survive, not not in a not happily, but in like um yeah, manages to live. But after the biological ancientalism in the after the 18th century, life prevailed, which means that yeah, just as the number of population shows in the 19th century, it flux, right? It yeah, the things was changing. Whoa, yeah, that's good. Good things for the modern people, right? Yeah, we could say that. So for a conclusion for this section, feminine disease in ordinary life, as is ended. And the final phase of the pre-industrial biological order. Yeah, this is just the like the exact situation before the industrialized world. And the lastly, the brother talks about the like just like uh, the the numbers in other senses. So many against the few, and brother compares the like certain the the people uh, who are like so-called otherwise in civilized world, and the others is barbarian, especially in we call nomads, especially in northern areas who attack the European and Asian modern the civilizations, right? They're like the Chinese dynasties and the European people, as we talked in the previous classes. So the like he brought us his questions like using the like civilization versus barbarians. Who was the real winner or the who was the real victor? In the short term, um, the barbarians or the nomadic peoples often emerged as the victors throughout the conquest and military power, right? The Huns and the Mongolian the armies, yeah, who across the whole Europe and conquered the whole the empires. So in the short term, the barbarians or nomadic people often, yeah, yeah, the conquered the civilizations, but after the in the long term, however, they were observed into the world of civilization. That means they're losing their distinct identity, right? So at first, the barbarian leaders overjoyed with their victories, but after that, yeah, they like became the one of the civilized people, and it is the histories of the Chinese girl history shows the exact points. So we can say that the disappearance of the barbarian nomads before the 17th century history saw the rise of the several great nomadic empires. But by the 18th century, most of them had retreated or been assimilated, returning to their original territory, so dissolving into surrounding civilizations. Yeah. So the conquest of space and the expansion of civilization, which one is the right one? Um, Conquest of space by the nomads is means the victory of the barbarians or uh, the expansion of the European or Chinese civilization. Yeah, brother emphasized the latter point. So on the surface, it seemed as though the nomads has conquered the vast spaces, yet in reality, those very spaces were eventually integrated into the expanding sphere of civilization. Therefore, when viewed from a long-term perspective, civilization was the one that won the race, like this. Oh, I wrote down in Korean, and it's just, this is the meaning the civilization, and this meaning the barbarians. So don't get me wrong with the words, the exact meaning of the civilization and the barbarians. I'm just following the Broder's definition, and Broder is just showing the not racist view, but civilization meaning the yeah technology or the new gadgets for like farming or the moving tools, things like that. So like who is the more civilized? People who don't use a cell phone or the people who use cell phone? And then we have such standards for civilization is using cell phone. The people who use cell phone is more civilized one. Not like the difference or gap between the mental capacity or the like yeah, I don't like that, but anyway, like racist view, yeah, brother is not does not use the word in that sense. Okay, so let me conclude the chapter one, and this one is the weight of numbers. Sometimes I love the like um to use using this kind of picture like the number is very important, but yeah, number is everything, but number is nothing. Yeah, already number is nothing, but number is everything. For Brodel, I think it would be quite good to summarize the exact meaning of the number in this chapter. All right, that's the end of the this today's lecture.